Hello and welcome, everyone. So, my name is Inga, and I wanted to talk to you about the Akashic Records and why I've decided to put out an Akashic Records course. So, first of all, I've been working as an Akashic Records reader. Among other things, I'm actually focusing on energy healing and somatic journeys and kind of deeper, let's call it spiritual therapy work. But I've been doing Akashic record readings since 2015. Eventually, I quit my academic career and moved to an island in the Mediterranean and started doing this more freestyle stuff, which was focusing then mostly on esoteric issues. So the energy work. I studied many varieties of energy therapy, and I also studied Hermetic Kabbalah and energy healing, such as Reiki. And more feminine modalities, more, let's say, quantum transformation modalities, a lot of somatic journeys. Now, I never thought an Akashic Records course was needed so much and that I had something to contribute because there is no point in regurgitating what everyone else is putting out there. So let me just introduce a little bit of my concept behind the Akashic Record. So you may be listening to all this and thinking, well, what on earth is she talking about? What are even Akashic Records? I'm interested in energy healing, and I even understand quantum transformation. What's she talking about? What are the Akashic Records? So, a common definition would be that the Akashic Records are a field of consciousness or a library or database of your soul. Some people would say the database of the universe, or like a library of all the events that ever happened. This last definition is the most problematic for me because it assumes a linear reality. And while for attunement, when we begin working with this field, we use the metaphor of a library. It's actually very effective. You can tune in and see a book, for example, like and open a book and access your soul. But it's just a metaphor. It's the imaginal, like a dream realm, right? That opens those gateways of consciousness. In reality, the Akashic Records, of course, are not a book hidden somewhere. No, that has not been my experience. My experience has been that the Akashic Records are a field of consciousness that penetrates, permeates everything around us. So our body, our aura, also carries our own Akashic records. And it's simply a quantum field that has such a fine, such a high frequency vibration that it records everything that happened in its own particular way, that stores all the future possibilities and all the past possibilities. It's really a quantum field. It's not a linear field. It's not going to give you a linear timeline. And to explain this a little bit, think of when we are in our mother's womb, when we are gestating, and we have an emergence, right? We appear, first of all, in a flash of light, like the Big Bang of the universe. There is a flash of light when conception occurs. And we start from a single-celled organism, which rapidly begins multiplying from two cells to multitudes, right? Billions of cells. We have like 30 trillion cells in our body or something like that. And each of these cells is actually a quantum computer. But that's another story. But then think, how do those cells know what to do? Like, why do we grow two legs and two arms and not five legs and one arm? And how does the cell know that it's part of a leg and not part of a head? How does this happen? Actually, no one's been able to explain it. It- just happens. That's kind of how evolution occurs. Yes, that's how evolution occurs. But that push, that creation, that pattern, that framework is actually part of the Akashic field, or Rupert Sheldrake called it the morphic field, right? So, of course, I'm not going to teach you how the bodies are formed and how morphic fields work. That's another area of science and research. What I work with is the Akashic records and how they pertain to consciousness, to expanding your consciousness, to accessing the higher frequency of consciousness, to accessing the hidden potential of your consciousness, including other incarnations, other realities, your ancestral memories, how to fill it up, how to fill yourself up so that it's not just you alone, poor me, lost, but expanding and connecting to the universal field of consciousness that the Akashic records actually are. So what I see out there, there are two main types of Akashic Records courses, and also misconceptions, or not misconceptions, but two frameworks about the Akashic Records. So one framework would be that people think the Akashic Records is about the past, literally past lives. Why? Well, because if you have this concept, if you have a definition that the Akashic Records are a book that contains all the story or the history of your soul. So we understand this, okay, that's a book with a history of my soul. So it contains all my past lives. And many people come to an Akashic record reading and think that now I'm going to open their book and start reading, right? So you were born 2 billion years ago, and your first incarnation was there then. Your second incarnation was there. It's going to be a very long reading if we go along like this. It is certainly possible to do it this way. That's not how I like to work. Because, first of all, to me, the records are non-linear. And when we start working with the past, we also rewrite both the past and the future, kind of like you work with inner child when you go to rescue the inner child and you write a different story. And the same way you address your past life regressions. But to me, past lives are not the main focus of the Akashic records because our universe is fractal and guaranteed this lifetime is enough. We come into childhood bearing wounding uh, patterns that we need to transform, either from other lifetimes, other civilizations, other lineages, um, particular wounding. So, for example, abandonment. Your soul at the first incarnation, when it was created, decided, oh, because I'm alone now, God has abandoned me. That means if you go into past lives, you'll find a lot of wounds of abandonment. If you go into inner child, you'll find that you felt abandoned by your mother, maybe even in the womb, in the first months, the first year of life before the memories were formed. If you go into inner child regression, you'll find yourself, in the crib, maybe you thought mommy's never coming, mother abandoned me, then you'll find maybe father left, abandonment, relationships, abandonment. So the same wound will be mirrored to you at all times. And to me, Akashic Records work is not going from abandonment to abandonment and listing all of them and feeling all of them and struggling with all of them, but is to work on the template itself. The template of abandonment can come in a relationship, can come in past life memory, inner child memory, can come in the future memory. But it's also stored in our body. It's also stored in our energy field and in the quantum realm. Whichever thread you pull entangles with all the other threads. So when you work on inner child, you heal past lives and vice versa. So that's one layer of the Akashic records. Then the other layer of the Akashic records that often people choose to work with has to do with star seeds, right? And which planet I came from and which star I came from. I don't belong here on Earth. I'm lost and confused. So that means I'm a star seed, I'm a light worker. This is all very valid, for the most part true. But I strongly believe this alone, it can be very, very valid, very helpful to help us understand the bigger picture, see the bigger picture, empower ourselves. But this alone is not enough. You're not going to get far just by studying how life is on other planets. So my preferred method of working with the Akashic field and the Akashic records is actually through transmission, through attunement, through connection. But ultimately, what I want to share, what I want to give you is a direct experience of the Akashic records. And it's building up your energy system to work with that. So I want to offer a course that goes over two modules, so two parts, where in the first part, we work with timelines, past, present, future. We get attuned to the Akashic records, and we build and build and build and build your energy field. And in the second part, we work in a targeted way with soul contracts, karmic relationships, businesses, integrating past life experience more fully, which I call allies, working with spirit allies rather than guides. So working with, finances, health blocks, and being initiated into energy healing. But in the first module, the main focus is to develop your intuition, build the skills to work with high frequency energy. Why? Everyone wants to work, not everyone works, but a lot of people want to work with high frequency energy because it sounds, wow, high frequency. You know how people say, oh, she's so high vibrational. Oh, he's so angry, he's so low vibrational. So when I talk about high frequency and low frequency, it doesn't necessarily mean a value judgment. High frequency isn't necessarily always good, and low frequency isn't necessarily always bad. It can be in the context, yes, like anger is low frequency, right? But anger can also be a gateway to power. How many of us have wished the anger to go away, grief to go away, because we want to be in a high frequency, high frequency, high frequency, and we're stuck because we've never addressed the shadow, because we never worked with the power that's hiding behind the anger, with the love that hides behind the grief, and ultimately we're left both without power and without love because we want to be high frequency. That's not the way to go. It's done. This is not needed anymore. We're done with this high frequency stuff. I'm not interested in this. But Akashic records are high frequency. They are high vibrational. So like very, very quick. The vibration that is very fine. That is quantum. That is completely unique. You have multiple threads of future. You have possibilities upon possibilities upon possibilities. You can rewrite the past and it pulls you into a different thread and your future gets recreated. It's completely mind-boggling. There is no way to express it or describe it. So when we work with that, of course we enter high frequency field. In fact, it's too high for us to grasp at first. So we need tools and bridges and like masters, guides. But eventually we build that bridge. We can work with that field directly. Yes, we can. But it takes hard work, as a matter of fact. And eventually, when you get plugged into the Akashic records, you build a bridge of consciousness, like you can travel to those dimensions. And eventually, it comes to you as a code, as a structural field. That's why I like to say I work with codes, structures, and templates in my sessions. And the only way to teach that is by experience. So I want my course to be 80% experiential. Some theory, of course, we'll have to teach, but homework and experience, that's what's going to be there. So to work with the actual high frequency energies, we need to build our power. We need to learn how to connect to the earth, and we need to build and strengthen our energy field. This is crucial because otherwise, like even when working with Akashic records, the most common, let's say, after effect is feeling tired, falling asleep. This happens when the mental layer of your aura is very weak, has no power there. So we need to work on that. Um, is feeling nauseous because all the energy goes up and there's no grounding left. Uh, is kind of feeling very spaced out, un unrelated to the body. So then over time, if you kind of remain spaced out, you have a dissonance between the physical world and the spiritual world. In the upper realms, everything is working fine. It's like people talking about twin flames, right? Oh, we're connected in the 5D, but nothing is happening in the 3D. And sometimes that's exactly how it needs to be. That's all you get, kind of, because it's not workable in the 3D. It's more of a problem when in the 5D you see money and houses, and in the 3D you live on the streets, right? So then nothing trickles down. There's no power to hold it. There's no bandwidth to hold it. So in order to work with the Akashic records and to actually get something done, to have them influence our, why work with something if it doesn't influence your life? Why read random things? Or like, oh, let me read my past lives and what's going to happen? So if we wanted to influence our lives, if we want to read past lives and actually bring in the consciousness of maybe what you need. I'll give you an example. So we do what is called an ally work in past lives, and I connected to a past life ally who was a dancer, a performer actually, in a cabaret. Not so long ago. Um, but I wanted to put out a course, a belly dancing class in person, right where I lived. And so I had no idea how to do that. And so when we did ally work, I connected with her. I found her name, I found her story, and I started strengthening this ally and connecting with her, bringing her knowledge, her expertise, her energy, her memories into my life. And for 3 years, I taught a successful belly dance course, which I never did before, and I performed. And then, of course, eventually it was time to grow up, and life is not a linear way, so I wanted to dissolve that container. But I did what I thought I'd never do, because I was able to connect to those memories. So I also want to teach you how to connect to past life allies, how to pull in their experience. I don't think people teach about that a lot. Maybe they feel it's a bit advanced or too much out there, but it is what it is. I'd like to teach that. I don't think it's very difficult. You may need to practice that also after the course is done, and you'll get deeper and deeper into it. But I want to teach you how to do it. Now, of course, in 10 lessons, no matter how content rich and experience rich they are, you can't become enlightened and know everything about everything. But the purpose of my course is not to know everything about everything, but to experience as much as possible and to build your structure. So a little bit about the course. So we are going to start with past lives, actually, and with timelines, understanding what timelines are. And then in the second lesson, we are going to be initiated into the Akashic Records, have an opening prayer that is the most widely used and opens us the biggest corridor. it's good to walk the path in the beginning that many trod. And then eventually you'll just be able to enter the Akashic records with just a code word. For example, just saying this, enter the Akashic records, and you're there. But to begin with, you need to really build it up. So we're going to learn how to be clairsentient, how to feel things. We're going to improve the sensitivity in your hands, to feel the energy, to see auras, to see energies. A lot of clairvoyance training, kind of how to see things, and third eye training, but also how to recognize your other senses, how to distinguish illusion from reality, what your fantasy is and what your actual experience in the records is. Um, then in the next lessons, work with the future. In lesson 3, work with allies, those past incarnations or future incarnations or ancestral incarnations that you want to integrate, that you want to use as your guides. I don't work with spirit guides in that context. I mean, I don't tell people, oh, you have 5 spirit guides and their names are Jack and Jill and Queen Elizabeth, and you find your own spirit guides. Okay, I'm not going to, I'm not assigning your life to you. That's a bit too much to ask, right? No. I want to teach you how to find your own guides. But in this model, in this method, actually, we work with allies more than guides. We will invite spirit guides, but we work with allies. Allies are ultimately a part of you, but they are parts from other incarnations, realities, other threads, and you want their experience, or you don't want their experience. Where you don't want their experience, that's module 2. So in module 1, we strengthen your energy field, learn lots of practices to develop your clairs, your psychic senses, strengthen the energy field, how to work with high frequency energies, how to work with past, present, and future. Now in module 2, we go more into working with others, should you need to, if they want you to, not, not randomly working with others. It's not going to work. But in module 2, we go into soul purpose and how it is expressed. That's what most people who come to me want to know. What is my soul purpose? So we're going to work a lot with that, what it is and what it isn't, how to find it and how to express it and how to clarify it and solidify it. And then karmic relationships, twin flames, soulmates, soul fragments, why karmic relationships occur, how to heal them, and etc. Then we're going to work with healing, energy healing, and the cause of disease in the Akashic records. Energy healing is a huge field. I'm not saying, in one lesson you're going to know all about it, but you're going to be initiated in the Akashic energy healing specifically. And then, of course, in subsequent practice or classes with me, you can expand on that. But we're going to have an initiation into energy healing in the Akashic records. And then working with financial blocks, again, in the Akashic records, from this high frequency structural template code perspective, and working with businesses, organizations, what I call egregores. Egregores is a work from magical practice and the occult, usually not used in the context of the Akashic records, but in fact, what people call, from my perspective, what people call the Akashic records of an organization or of a company, to me is an egregore of a company, which has the Akashic records, but also has lower frequency energy, kind of just the etheric field. Right? So how to work with them, where both the Akashic perspective and that lower frequency perspective. Again, lower frequency in this case is not bad. Actually, from the Akashic perspective, lower frequency is good. It's sacred duality. If you're only in the higher frequency, the energy is going to blow you apart, right? So you need to work on your body. You need to work on earth. You need to have your practices. You need to stay grounded. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. And if I can't teach you, I'll tell you, because I'm grounded and I'm practical and I don't like woo and too much out there and lots of useless information. So this course will, I actually intended as a mystery school initiation, as I like to say. What it means is I want you to learn by experience. So not by me giving you, a 300-page PDF manual. We'll record the lessons. There will be mostly practices. I'll give you PDF guidelines for homework, but we'll practice. I mean, you don't need a PDF manual uh, to raise your consciousness. I mean, you may need some of it, right? Some bullet points or like the basics, but I'm not going to teach you to douse with the pendulum for information that I already found on your behalf. It's not this course. If you want to, take a session with me, I'll teach you about star seeds, soul groups, teach you to douse with the pendulum, give you an attunement, and off you go. But I don't want to teach that because a lot of people do that already. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not interested in teaching that. You can go into the Akashic Records, find the star seed stuff on yourself, on your own, and for yourself after completing this course. But I think you'll find that there is more than that you can do. And it may be very important to know about life on other planets. I'm not saying it's not, because it can expand your consciousness as well. But if it's just that, no, I'm sorry. That's not what's needed right now. We don't need more star seeds. We need someone who can actually work. If you can work and you're a star seed, then wonderful, right? Then you can learn how to expand your consciousness even further. But I'm not kind of going to contribute, right, to the very floaty and ungrounded energy in relation to that. So I'm not going to teach pendulum dowsing and diagnostics, not in this course. Not in this way, although we will learn some diagnostics and how to, but the main focus is going to be on expanding your own clairs, those intuitive senses, claircognizance, so knowing clearly, clairsentience, feeling it in your body, clairvoyance, seeing it with your inner eye, yes, some third eye activation, and clairaudience, maybe if you have it. So listening to that. We will work with that. We'll plant the seeds. Those senses will develop. So that's what we're going to do mostly. So a course that is initiatory, experiential, focused more on kind of this mystical experience rather than just, let's say, working in the information frameworks that others have laid down for you. So if someone else has channeled information about soul groups, about blocks, about life lessons, and you just douse for them, for example, we're not going to do that. Okay, so we're doing it differently. So welcome. If you have any questions, you can connect with me at Inga at healing-radiance.com, kind of that dash that's in the middle of the line. Or you can look up Healing Radiance and send me a note or check out the Akashic Records course. And regardless, thank you for listening and welcome to my space. And you're welcome to check out other offerings. Thank you and many, many blessings to you.